Peace and blessings. This is unplugem. Well, Bobbi Kristina's auntie is saying that she's doing better. And this is just a little update on that situation for those who requested that. I felt as if this was, aside from the shock of, such a young, aspiring talent going like this, and her mother having went like this. I thought it was another garden variety, quote unquote, occult death in the entertainment business. A fishy death, a death that had surrounding circumstances that pointed to some foul play. And I was going to leave it at that. But there is more. And I think that people have a heart for this story for a lot of reasons, For one thing, we never got to see the young lady use her talent and see what she would do with it. But, let's cut to the bottom line. We are talking about an industry like Dave Chappelle had once said that is a little sick. I maintain it's more than a little sick. It is sick. Would it have been better if she had went thoroughly into the business, got a certain level of fame and popularity from her talent, and then got locked into that program? It's a program. People think it's a business. We think it's a business. Most people on the outside looking in think it's a business, even people as close as relatives. Entertainers themselves, people who actually go through the motions, are the ones who really get to see up close and personal what all you have to trade mentally and spiritually in order to get one of the coveted spots as a star in this new Babalon system. But let's look at a few things. We said on the previous video where I touched on the subject that I thought it would be fitting with occult practices to allow for her to linger. When I realized she was on life support, medically induced coma, I realized they were taking control of what her death date would be. And by that video, if you look at the date on that video, I said it, that I thought that they would try to allow for her to linger until her mother's death date. And then subsequently that has come out in the news, and even places like TMZ have reported it. However, Bobby Brown gave an official statement via his lawyer in which he denied such. And I think that was back here. He didn't exactly touch on that particular allegation. He was vague, and he said that the allegations and rumors and speculation that's been thrown out in the media will be dealt with. It was a veiled legal threat, but he didn't specifically refute that they would be considering cutting her off life support today, which is the 11th, the date of this taping. It's 10 a.m. Now, this lady also, I thought, was interesting. She's supposed to be a friend and a confidant. When friends and confidants come out and, seem to be getting a lot of press and have a lot to say, I wonder how confidential of a confidant they really were. So I wanted to know, who is this lady? Who is this older white lady hanging out and kicking it with this young niece here? And why? Daphne Barak. And a big shout out to Brother Brandon for pointing out certain keywords to help us decipher this coded conversation. But Daphne Barak is an Israeli-American interviewer whose subjects have included film and music celebrities, royalty, world leaders, and international personalities. So she is a handler. That's what she is. She's a handler. So watch very carefully what she says and what happens to her as these events continue to play out. Thank goodness for mighty warriors of prayer. You know, why doesn't she deserve prayer? Okay, just like any other young person who's been confused and twisted and abused. Let's continue, and that's the only reason she get a pass from me now. But let's look at some words aside from Daphne Barak, a very strange name indeed, and I thought that it was part of the code speak, but I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know where to put anything concerning this story. And then Brother Brandon, he helped to bring a couple things to light. Now let me make sure we got this centered right this time. We didn't have it before, right? Let me make sure you see everything on your end. Lord have mercy. Okay, we're going the wrong way. All right. Well, of course, the words. The words stood out, and names and dates. And that's how you decode. All right, hospitalized on the 31st. January 31st. The 31st is a reversal of 13. Dionne Warwick. Dionne Warwick happens to be her relative, and she was a star. Look at this family line. Look at this bloodline. Cissy Houston sang with Aretha Franklin. We're going to look at that. Dionne Warwick had a big, huge musical career, and some questioned her vocal prowess. Okay, but nonetheless, she made all the right moves, and she was a big star. But it was interesting as I looked at her name, as I saw a little side note story that she had some sort of an accident in a shower, and we can say, well, now you're reaching. But we have to look at all of the potential words, all of the potential symbols that the sentence is constructed out of. Everything that sticks out. And when we see commonalities, and when we see things coinciding with other things, then we can begin to decode and decipher what the sentence is actually saying. So when I saw that, and after my brother Rashad had sent me this, I thought that they went together. Somebody had posted this, and I, again.
What's up, bro? Oh, what happened to your Whitney Houston cutout? She fell apart in the shower.
Okay, so predictive programming does happen that way. We're talking about a Quincy Jones production. We're talking about all high member, all well-standing members in the black secret society. Okay, we're looking at a lot of boule play. Okay, and so it's not a stretch that perhaps Whitney was aware of some things. We don't know what that note was that she gave to Brandy, and we also do know that she was asked before her death what song did she once sang at her funeral, which is a very odd thing for somebody to do. But see, people are aware when you've been picked. When you've been chosen for whatever reason, because of your bloodline, when you've been chosen because of what you represent, when you've been chosen because of your name, maybe your birth date. But there are a lot of different variables that come into play. But at the end of the day, you have to represent something to them. Okay, Whitney represented like this queen of Babylon. Okay, she was the queen of the night in the Bodyguard movies. Okay, so her daughter represents as the princess. This is what it represents. Okay, these are just regular people. All right, who happened to be in front of the camera. But again, we're talking about a language of symbolism through which the powers that be speak to the spirit realm. Okay, they use this language of symbolism, often by way of ritual, because our subconscious minds pick up on it, and we by default become involved in the ritual, get initiated by watching these things, by putting our power into these things. I thought it was interesting that they had a shining a light for healing vigil, but I don't know, you know, like I said, I've not been following this like some, but where was the reverends at? Where was any representative man of God, okay, of whatever faith or belief system that you want? It was kind of, you know, one of those vague things, one of those ambiguous things, the problems that we find in songwriters' secret gospel songs, being too vague. Okay, a light for healing. You know, again, there's good intended people out there. I know there's some believers out there praying, and that's what matters. Okay, what the believers are saying. But whoever is behind these things, when we hear terms like this, we hear George Bush Senior talk about, pardon me, 1,000 points of light. We hear Sade, still looking for the light, the endless pool on the other side. We hear Janet Jackson in Pleasure Principle, you said right and I said wrong, which brings us to a stop as the light is changing. Michael Jackson in Blame It on the Boogie. I've seen the light, believe me. Stevie Wonder, Love, Light in Flight. Light represents something different to them than it does to you. Lou Cipher, okay, the light bearer. And so when I see that referenced like that, it makes antenna go up. So I thought that was interesting, to have a shining a light for healing vigil, and that the girl's home was in Roswell, Georgia. And again, these are just the major words in the cloud of words that we've heard surrounding this story. But that's what you look for. You look for the numbers, you look for the dates, and you look at the major words and the major players. I don't think it's any coincidence that we looked at the Babalon Working, and we're still looking at it. It's not over. Continue to pray against it, and continue to pray against all of the peons and workers who are diligently doing workings to help to bring forth Diana, okay, the Queen of Heaven, the whore of Babylon. Diana is the same name as Dion, and a war wick, to ignite a war. We talked about this in the Babalon Working video. And again, this is how they speak in code one to another. Alright, there's no way that story should have made it, but the story made it because it was Bobbi Kristina related. Why is she being sacrificed? As a symbolic princess, daughter of the queen. Clive Davis, who was instrumental in Whitney Houston's egregious death and the circumstances surrounding it, and the way they partied while she laid upstairs dead in the bathtub. Tommy Mottola, who MJ had outed as a devil, who married Mariah Carey when she was just really jailbait. Birdman, we know he likes young men, young boys. Suge, these are the devils and the peons, because some of them are real bosses, and then some of them are baby bosses, expendable. Okay, that's what Boule is all about. You're guardian to the king. That means you're expendable. You stand there and you take the hit, okay, while the king is protected and gets to split. But Clive Davis was one of those bosses, and he had Whitney when she was basically jailbait, when she was young. But we look at this connection with her bloodline, the music business, and the music business getting a hold to them when they're young. We've talked about this in video after video. The dedication of your child to the business, to give your child over to the brotherhood or to the sisterhood, to give your child over to the system, the program, if you will, the Project Janus program, to offer your child over in exchange for success. And they'll even tell you, you know, your child will be blessed. We're going to raise it up to step in to your shoes, or, you know, also to take a position of fame and influence. But these peons like Suge or Birdman, they want to be like the devils that Tommy Mottola and Clive Davis are. And they're expendable. Like Ice Cube said, they'll have a new one next year. Okay, we looked at Sissy and CC. The whole connection between Sissy and CC also, this came from Brother Brandon as well. Let's look at that a little bit more clearly. Sissy, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, all of these references to space, and you know, I'm stretching. Backward. Sissy, the Egyptian president, is named Sissy. Egypt, the Egyptian mother goddess, is named Isis. Coincidence, we looked at that before. But Sissy is the mother in this situation, as Whitney Houston has passed on. She is the head matriarch, can we say that? And ironically, she has the same name as this head matriarch during the time of bringing forth that feminine aspect of Lucifer, as in the whore of Babylon, or the queen of Babylon, Isis. And to this mother goddess, you must sacrifice and offer your children. Even the elders. You know, I don't talk about Eddie Levert. Got 2 sons gone. God help his soul. And console him, because I know he needed. But can we find cases of the elders sacrificing their children? Of course. I would be very leery and wary of Madonna adopting another little black baby right about now. Have mercy, because she needs some help. Lord, she needs some help. She put that thing away, pack it away for the winter. But yeah, Egyptian mother, Isis, Sisi, and the sacrifice being thrown to the fire, sacrifice to Moloch as well. And then of course we looked at Daphne Barak, and again we have more references to the same. Barack Obama, lightning falling from heaven. Interesting. All of these things in this one story, and you know, it was just kind of nagging me because people was saying, well, you know, I thought you was going to talk more on it. I said, well, what more is there to say? But I thank you guys for doing that, because now I do see that there's more to this than meets the eye. That's why it's so prevalent in the press, and it points to the news writer's secret, to the fact that whatever the big story is that's dominating the media, it's always that story is always laden with this language, with this symbolic language. Do you remember when Bobby and Whitney went to Israel? It was in the Jet magazine, the Ebony and stuff. Y'all know it ain't no Jet magazine no more. But I guess it wasn't doing nothing but celebrating Boule, huh? Now that we know. But at one time it was a way to keep up with what black entertainers was doing, and black folks was doing too. It had regular news in there. It wasn't big as a comic book. But anyhow, I remember when they went to Israel, and I was studying at that time, and I just knew. I said, they're trying to get out. They're trying to learn something or get out. And I think all of that is also connected. I also remember Bobby coming out and saying something to this degree now. Now, y'all know we've talked about this. I believe that the entertainers and the stars are given the position of being an entertainer or a star as a cover, as a front, and their real thing is like the controller Candy Jones, to actually be a spy, a mind-controlled spy in most cases. Well, remember Bobby saying something to that effect, man. Everybody, Bobby Brown lost his mind. Ain't that much crack in the world. I've heard a few crackhead conversations in my day. I've never heard a crackhead conversation with crackhead talking about they be doing missions for the government. That comes from somewhere else. But I remember Bobby saying that. See, this is all something deeper than what we really know. But it is all in line with the time of Imbolc, a time of sacrifice, pagan sacrifice, and also it is also in line with this time of the Babalon Working. And her mother was used to represent the Queen of the Night in film. And again, when they do that type of thing in film, it is about the symbology. It's what they're saying symbolically. So she was that, what Beyonce is today, okay, at that time. And her daughter has been groomed to take a symbolic place because of it from the very beginning. This child has had nothing but cameras and turmoil, it seemed like, her whole little life. So she was raised for this. Remember, they raise you up for trauma. Trauma-based mind control. Okay, like I said, the shining a light for healing vigil, again, to all the well-intended people there, God bless you. And we thank you for your prayers and binding up the soul fetcher demon and asking that she be loosed from any ancestral curses, because this is a bloodline curse. Okay? And of course, when you hear people talk about the light, there's usually Masonic involvement involved. Let's look at Grandma for a second. So I'm always talking about something. Move out the way. Her group was called the Sweet Sensations. The Sweet Inspirations. And as a matter of fact, I had meant to pull up that album cover. But the Sweet Inspirations were led by Cissy Houston. She got put on, of course, being a background singer for Aretha Franklin. And I mean, there's things I could say. I have to live in Detroit. But she know about it too. This bloodline thing. The strange things that go on between family members when they're all pulled in to this program. Okay. But the Sweet Inspiration, I think it was Hot Butterfly, was the album I was looking for. But what I saw in the imagery for the album covers was the same old garden variety, mind control, victim imagery. Hot Butterfly, 1979 album by the Sweet Inspirations. But again, this just shows that she's had a long history of success in this business. It's difficult for you to step down, step aside, Bill Cosby, even when they have, even when they've let you know that, okay, we need new blood for your spot, but we'll keep you around. You know, for some, that's not good enough, and it's always a free will thing. So, whereas I used to think they would come to you and say, well, you have to do such and such. No. The insinuation is made that if you do this, it'll help to lengthen your career. And people around the business talk. And it does indeed get around. It gets around. But yeah, Sissy Houston, back then, with the young group, Sweet Inspirations. And then, of course, you can see her now. And, yeah, she sang for Elvis as well. And we've heard, you know, as a background singer, and we've all heard, you know, I know I've heard for some time about Elvis supposedly being one of those type of stars, one of those entertainers. So we're just looking at some strange circumstances here, okay, surrounding this whole thing, and waiting to see what it's all going to end up being. But this was the last thing, of course, the obvious thing that I'm sure everyone has seen is, of course, the 13, because it's always used as a mark to show and prove that the devil is in the details and the bloodline is on the scene. So, to look at that, if we can. Trying something new here. Should have stuck with what I was doing, because this is not acting right. But yeah, it's about making twins. Are you serious? And the 2 plus 11 equals 13, but the 2 itself is a duality number. The 2 being for the second month, February. And then, of course, the 11, which represents twins, always like twin towers. And so you have both numbers representing twins. It's crazy. And I can't see my screen, so I'm hoping that everything is lined up just right. But we're talking about a lot of things here. Ancestral bondage, war. The 13 families also representing that. And of course, we're talking about ancestral bondage to the highest degree, a bloodline, or multiple members of one family being sent through this system. And of course, we see the youngest one not even having a chance to display her talent within it. But even when you break down 211 as in 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 5, even then you're dealing with the spirit, or the 5th element, as 5, also considered a number of death. But the telling part is the duality. February is the second, or the number 2, the second month, and 11 represents wizardry and the twins. And although Bobbi denies the rumors, and he did so through his legal team, even to speculate that letting Bobbi Kristina die on the same day as her mother passed is a possibility at all is an occult-based belief to the highest degree, and it's rooted in the Project Janus duality agenda to try to make them eternal twins. Okay, but again, it has to do with the pagan sacrifice time that we are in. We're in a time of pagan sacrifice right now. Pray against these things, especially during the night seasons. We thank you again for tuning in. This is Unplugem. Brother Minister Theo. Shalom.